If you're an entrepreneur or a freelancer or running a small business, then you'll know the importance of having new SEO leads. Why is it that fresh leads seem to be all or nothing? One minute they're all coming in, the next minute the phone doesn't ring, there's no leads at all. How often the expression's used like it's a roller coaster ride with business, or it's a feast and a famine from one minute to the next. So what can you do if your leads start to dry up? Well, I'm going to share with you my roller coaster ride since 1999 and help you see how you can benefit from the things that I learned along the way. And I'm going to use a simple structure of good news and bad news. And by the end of this video, you'll see how it turned out. So I'm going to take you all the way back to 1999 when my business was in its early fledglings. Fledglings?
Good news.
So I spoke to a friend who said all you need to do if you want more business is just to get to #1 on all the search engines.
Bad news.
But that was easier said than done. How do you get there? How do you ever get to #1 in the search engines?
Good news.
SEO, search engine optimization, is easy, he said. You just need to know what to do.
Bad news.
So I started looking into it, but it seemed that all my competitors have done it beforehand. They owned all the keywords, they had all the search terms. There was no way I was going to get to #1 in Google or any other search engine of that time.
Good news.
Hey, there's a tool though that does it all for you. You just pay a few $100s and it does the whole job for you. You can get to #1 in no time according to all those testimonials that I read. This sounded so good to be true. It was too good to be true.
Bad news.
The tool never delivered, it just took some money, and I had no benefits at all from using this tool. And where were all those great testimonials? They must have just been made up.
Good news.
I just found out though that all my competitors have been doing it wrong. They've been using these black hat methods, and I wanted to do things honestly. And gradually the search engines were now getting rid of these spammy types of businesses that were using keyword stuffing and were doing all sorts of dodgy things to get to #1. My business that was real could still get to #1. There was hope.
Bad news.
But the right way to do things takes time. Google only rewards you if you spend time doing the right things, and I wanted to be #1 first, so this was hard going. It could even take years to build authority.
Good news.
Well, by now I've been doing this for a good few years, and things were beginning to just get me found in the search engines. I wasn't #1, but I was getting some organic traffic coming through for all those things I've been doing over the past few years. My links were coming through, my domain had been established, Google was rewarding me for a few keywords. I was beginning to sharpen down some of the search engine results. And now I'd done it with my business, I wanted to do it for other people's businesses too. But as a web designer, I was generally too busy to do SEO. And so gradually, my business was growing, had more clients, and actually the SEO got put to the side. The leads were coming in, it was a feast situation.
Bad news.
Well, almost a year had gone by since I did any SEO, and gradually the leads stopped coming in because I hadn't really maintained the search engine optimization that I'd once put in. And also the algorithm was changing.
Good news.
But I do have better expectations. I do understand what SEO is all about. I understand the mindset that's needed to get SEO right. And when I put the effort in with SEO, the leads were gradually coming in. So I could see light at the end of the tunnel if I ever went back to SEO again.
Bad news.
The trouble was I'd been so busy I hadn't maintained my website for 15 years. So suddenly now when I was wanting leads to come back in, my website looked horrendous. And even if people did find me in the search engine results, would they want to do business with a website that looked 15 years old?
Good news.
I started looking at doing some SEO again, but this time things had changed. Google were rewarding people that started registering their business on Google Maps. It was called Google My Business. I didn't know anything about it, but I was determined to find out how I could use it to benefit my business.
Bad news.
Google My Business though was so confusing. It didn't make any sense, and no one seemed to know what to do and how to go about it. And in the end, you just registered it and then you registered it again, but nothing really seemed to happen. I'd lost a little bit of interest in Google My Business at that point.
Good news.
I decided to really get to grips with Google My Business. And actually, I was surprised at the results. In fact, I started sharing those results on a YouTube channel, and I was amazed at the amount of people that also had found the similar situations that I found. That Google My Business was confusing, it was hard to know what they wanted, and I was determined to make sure that I got my business to number one, to get those leads, because I needed to get leads back in. My SEO hadn't worked, organically speaking, but I could see that I could get it to work for Google Business Profile, or Google My Business as it was known back then. So I made a YouTube channel and started sharing it with people like yourself, and that's why you're here today watching this channel. But it didn't end there, because there's one more bit of bad news and then one more bit of good news. What's the bad news?
Bad news.
Well, most visitors, they visit this YouTube channel, they think it's interesting, but the bad news is they never click an alert button to tell them when the new algorithm changes, when Google changes something in particular on Google Business Profile, and so they miss out on keeping their business optimized on the most important matters.
Good news.
The good news for you though is you can subscribe and click the alert button below, and that will then let you know when there's a new change that you need to update on your business. On my website, I've got genuine testimonials that will tell you the businesses that really have got new SEO leads by just following some of the tips I give on this free YouTube channel. And if you want to, meanwhile, optimize your business with 13 more tips, then head over to this video and I'll see you there too.